seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepherdson, and today is Tuesday, April the 26th, 2022. We got a very special episode coming at you tonight. I'm excited to bring it to you. Yesterday, we did OTP's weekend review with Stu without Stu with Craig Oberholzer. That's a long title. I know that you're thinking that. That is a very long title, but it's catchy. It rolls off the tongue. That being said, today, a little bit of news broke the internet. A video went out of one Stu Baylor Jr. saying, "Guess who's back? Back again." You heard it. I don't gotta sing it. You heard it. You know what's going on. So, Stu, back on the bike, posting videos of him riding out there at the Shoals MX, his compound, and I think letting the world know that he was racing National Enduro this weekend. So a lot of questions came with that. GNCC even reposted it. There's a GNCC next weekend. Now, we've talked with Stu several times in the past on this very show saying that his projected timeline for GNCC racing was snowshoe. Now, he posted he's back on the bike. He's back riding. Everyone says and assumes and thinks, hey, Stu's racing next weekend at the Hoosier GNCC. So I think with that overwhelming amount of things that came towards Stu and about what he posted and about being back, he hit me up and graciously volunteered his time to come on here and kind of address it to everyone all at once rather than send a million messages. Stu decided to come on and kind of clear things up himself. We took a random tangent, went downhill, talked about all sorts of stuff, had me fired up. So it's a good conversation. It's an update on Stu's condition, where he is at as far as the progression of his injury, and then also with what's going on as far as his timeline for GNCC, his plans for this weekend at the National Enduro. So it was a pretty cool conversation, and I, as always, have a lot of fun talking to Stu. So we talked to him in his return. Hopefully next week, talk to old Stranger Danger, because he will be making his return allegedly. If you haven't seen the video that we put out, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. So On the Pipe Podcast on YouTube. We're able to go out to the AUS, the Oss Ranch here in North Carolina. So speaking of which, I just got a text from him. So went out there, filmed some stuff with Strang. That was actually his first time back on a bike as well. So obviously Stu and Strang both dealing with injuries at the beginning of the season. Stu at round 1, Strang at round 2. Both of those guys are getting back on the bike. Excited to see it. I know Johnny Gerard is not too far from coming onto the bike. He's been mountain biking and stuff. So we got people coming back, so hopefully we get a chance to talk to Strang next week. We got that little update as far as that video is concerned, so if you haven't seen it, you can check it out, hear a little bit about Josh's injury, and see his first time back on the bike and how he felt about it. But this week, we're going to talk to Stu. We're going to see what is going on, what his plans are for the weekend. Before we get into that, I want to let you guys know that Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual-sport motorcycles and are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best-looking bikes on the market and back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. So today was a little bit of a sponsorship blending for me. I don't know, it's just kind of ironic how it happened. I had to bring my car to a service station, so I was up there, and I was not far away from Armored Graphics in Monroe, North Carolina. So I went down to Armored Graphics and kind of spent the day there, and obviously wearing my Beta Motorcycles hat, my Beta shirt. Actually, I wasn't wearing a Beta shirt, but I was wearing a Beta hat, And lo and behold, the kit that was fresh off the press, we printed it, laminated it, cut it. It was Zach Tussle's kit from Raymond James. So I was at Armored Graphics wearing a beta hat, cutting out Zach Tussle's graphics from Raymond James. So it was like, dang, this is the whole podcast right here. Also printed some stickers that have a QR code in them. So if you see those stickers, you can just scan the QR code and listen on the Pipe Podcast. Not to brag, might be my greatest idea that I've ever had. We'll see. But nevertheless, it was a cool day, kind of blending that whole thing and to spend some time with my buddy Paul and spend some time with them at Armored Graphics. They obviously have been one of the top tier graphic manufacturers for quite some time now. They did all the JGR team stuff. They got some really cool projects on the horizon. I should have asked if I could have talked about it. I know that I was threatened to not take a picture of something that they're working on right now, but I did not ask if I could talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about it quite yet, but it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I should have thought that out before I started talking about it on here. But anyway, you can head to armorgraphics.com. Use promo code OTP20 when you check out. So check out their kits, check out which one you want, and if you put in promo code OTP20, that's going to save you 20% off of Armor Graphics. Their prices have remained consistent. They haven't been a victim of inflation, and you can still save 20% off of that price. There is no better deal in graphics because they're already top of the line quality, and now you can get them for even less of a price. Definitely better price than any competitor besides like eBay graphics. But if you use promo code OTP20 and get 20% off of their listed price, that's going to be the best deal you can get on graphics. And oh, hey, by the way, it's going to be the best graphics you can put on your motorcycle. So check them out, armorgraphics.com. We mentioned we cut up Zach Tussle's OTP kit that's going on his Kawasaki. This episode is brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you or someone you know wants to save and invest for their future or is already retired and needs advice for income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Find out more by Googling Zach Tussle or at their website at financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Or check him out at the racetrack. He'll be the guy with some super clean OTP Kawasaki graphics. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to get into this episode. It was really cool. Stu volunteered his time for a very special edition of OTP Stuesday. I think that's what we're going with. We got the weekend review with Stu. Now we got Stuesday because that's what's going on today. Trying to line up some interviews for you guys. I got some really cool ones on the horizon. I am sorry for the scattered aboutness of the show. Once we start going live on YouTube, it's going to be at a set time every single week. So you will know when shows are coming on. And then that will force me to be consistent, and it'll allow you to know when the next episode of OTP is going to be available. I'm trying to decide on a time. I wish I could do it during the day. I think it'd be hard to do it during the day, just because it's not just me. And I know a lot of times there's shows that don't work out or don't come out on time. It's not just me, especially when we have 3 people coming on. I do my best to accommodate everyone else's schedule. I kind of put their schedule ahead of mine. So when things happen, things come up, it's not just my schedule I'm working with. It's a whole bunch of other people with a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So I think that'll also help once we get a consistent time. We're doing it at the same time, same day, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm excited for that change to happen. But like I said, I don't know whether to do it in the middle of the day. I don't know whether to do it at noon, like lunchtime. I don't know whether to do it at 6 p.m. No, 6 p.m. is too early. Maybe 7 p.m., maybe 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m. Is 9 p.m. too late? So I don't know. If you have any suggestions on when you think might be the best time, shoot me a DM on Instagram and let me know, because that's something that I've been trying to figure out, is what time would work best for those shows for everyone. Right there, I got off on a tangent, got off on a rant. I apologize for that. What I was getting to was that I don't remember. Oh, shows, guest, cool interviews. That's where we were going with that. There's some interviews that I have booked that are on the schedule that they are giving me their time. That is going to be a longer form discussion. So Stu and I talked for like an hour. He's kind of a co-host more than a guest because it's kind of a long form discussion. OTP Tuesdays like to keep things around 20 minutes. I tell people right around 15, 20 minutes, depending on what is going on. We go a little bit less, a little bit more, whatever. But OTP Tuesdays are meant to be what's happening right now. What happened over the weekend? What happened yesterday? What happened today? What's happening this weekend? That is OTP Tuesday. This whole thing started with long form interviews, kind of like a Joe Rogan podcast, where there's a whole conversation. It's finding out about the rider, finding out their story, finding out where they came from, how they started, all of that good stuff. And the OTP Tuesdays kind of transformed into what the show became as far as what's happening right now. Hey, we need results from the weekend. We need to know what happened, who was in it, who's in the limelight, what do they have to say. So that's the transition that we made, and that's when the show really started to take off. So that's the whole point of OTP Tuesdays. If you listen to OTP Tuesdays in the past, I did before what I'm kind of doing now, where I'm going off on a rant before we got to the interviews, and then that was the idea for Mondays. Mondays was going to be the race recap, the weekend review, and that whole portion before the interviews on Tuesday is what the Monday show is supposed to be about. We ended up setting things up with Stu. I think that's been really cool. I think it's been fun, and I think there's been a lot of knowledge that has been dropped and shared on those shows. So I think that's cool. And on weeks where he can't do it or there's something else going on, we've had Craig, we've had Tom, we've had those type of people step in. So I think it's cool to have someone to bounce stuff back and forth with, especially talking about results. But there goes another tangent. The goal is I have a couple riders coming up. It's some pretty big names, and I'm pretty stoked about it. But it's gonna be more of a longer form. So I don't know when I want to post those. I don't know because I'm not going to commit to another daily show as far as getting those long-term ones in because it's not going to be every week that someone's going to give me an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of their time. So be on the lookout. That's why I say it's important to subscribe. I didn't post anything on the socials for the show yesterday. I'm not going to post anything on socials for this one until Wednesday morning. So there's a chance that you're listening to this before I even posted it. If you listened to yesterday's show, it was before I posted it. And as these shows come along, these more longer form ones, these higher profile ones, I'll probably just sneak them in there and then make a post later on. But wherever you're listening to this at, make sure you hit subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're at. Just hit subscribe. That way you get a notification when a show pops up. And because a lot of times it's timing the whole engagement period with social media. So if the show gets done at a random time or we're waiting on an interview or waiting on somebody and something like that happens, I'm likely not going to post about it until it's a better time to post about it. So if you subscribe, it allows you to be the first one to see when shows get uploaded. The longer form ones, I'll obviously have they're scheduled out, so I'll have more knowledge and more time to plan for that. So hopefully it will be more well known. But yeah, I'm excited about them. I think there's going to be some really cool ones popping up. So I appreciate you listening. I can't thank you enough for being here and for listening to On the Pipe podcast. I am in a transition phase. The show is going to get much better. One thing that I bit the bullet on, got some equipment coming, got some cameras coming, got some microphones coming. Gonna get stuff to set up for the show to be able to live stream it. That's one of the big things I've been waiting on as far as going live. Yes, I have a cell phone. Yes, I have a webcam on my computer. Yes, we could technically go live now, but I don't want to do it until it's a good product that I'm happy with. I don't want it to look like it was filmed with a Motorola Razr. Excuse me, with a Motorola Razr back in 2005. So waiting to get that thing set up. We're in that process. That's what I was getting at though. Tonight there's a break in the audio where it kind of gets quiet when Stu's talking. I'm dealing with a few different setups. I tried something new tonight. Not sure how it's going to sound, but what I'm getting at is this is a transition phase. Yes, this is what I'm focusing more of my time on, and just bear with me. These are going to get better. Appreciate you sticking with me this far. I couldn't be more thankful for how much the show has grown and where the show has gotten to up until this point. But as I mentioned, as a transition, as I figure this thing out, I mean, before I wouldn't even think about a show until I was hitting record. And we've gotten to this point just from doing that. So I'm really trying to think through this whole process. I'm really trying to line things up. I'm really trying to make sure that we can give you all a great product. And so, yeah, thank you for being with me through the growing pains. Thank you for your patience as we continue these growing pains and really get this thing honed in and dialed in to what OTP could be and what OTP should be. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for buying t-shirts. Thanks for the messages. Thanks for everything. Couldn't do it without you guys. Wouldn't do it without you. Well, probably would just because I got nothing else to do but talk to myself now. But I've said it before. I'll say it again. I will literally say it again like 30 minutes from now because I talked about it with Stu on the show. The whole goal here is to grow the sport, elevate the riders' income, bring more eyeballs to the sport, bring more spectators to the sport, have more people buying dirt bikes, have more people racing dirt bikes. That is the purpose of this show. And I'm excited to get it to a point where it'll make better strides in doing that. So without further delay or more tangents, more rambles, it is time to move into a very special edition of this week's show. This one we're gonna call it OTP Stuesday because we did Monday review yesterday with Craig. So now we're fitting it in here. Stu, going around the internet, looking through Instagram. I didn't really notice anything that stood out to me today. But I understand that there was something that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, you didn't notice anything?
No, I haven't seen any reels, any stories, nothing.
Well, I went to my 10-week or 11-week or however long it's been checkup, and after CT scans, it looks like I'll be good to go. So just gonna try to do what I can on the bike for now, and the whole goal from the start was if we could try to get cleared before the National Enduro to line up for the National Enduro. So that's still the plan.
So, and that is one thing that we talked about before is talking about you going out to get some points at the next National Enduro, and that's kind of when we pulled up the schedule and realized how damn close the next National Enduro was. Now it's really close. It's this weekend. But part of the reason why you wanted to chat and part of the reason why we wanted to do this is to kind of clear the air on some things on your end. I know as soon as you post videos of you riding and post things about you being back and you coming back, and then GNCC even repost that, we got National Enduro this weekend where you've missed 0 rounds and you're the current points leader. And we have a GNCC that is happening the very next weekend. Can you give us some clarity on what you being back on the bike means? Are we going to see you this weekend and next weekend? What's the plan?
So the plan as of now is the National Enduros. I'm going to, since I haven't missed any rounds there, I'm going to try to salvage a championship or at least give it my best effort there. So I do not have any plans of running the GNCC next weekend. That obviously being said could change. If I finish this weekend and I feel fine and everything just seems to be clicking, then maybe you'll see me line up at the GNCC. But like I said, as it stands, that is not the plan. Plan is to go out, race the National Enduro, get points, and try to pull a top 7 and hopefully podium the next one, and then be in the fight at the end for the championship. So, realistically, I think top 7 is realistic for the weekend, and I think that a top top 3 the following. Missouri already tried really well, so I feel like I should be able to top 3 there, and I'll still be, in striking distance and can make it happen for the rest of the year. So that's the goal. GNCCs, as it stands, 10 minutes on the bike and I'm starting to breathe pretty heavy. By the 20-minute mark, I'm feeling it. We did we did like an hour and a half of true motos today on the bike, which was a long, tough day for me. So I think 3 hours might be a little bit out of the question right now. And do I want to line up for GNCC? Absolutely. Do I want to line up and let Ben win another race? No. I could possibly see myself lining up by Snowshoe or at Snowshoe.
And so the Snowshoe has been kind of this sentiment all along as far as your GNCC return is concerned. So looking at this weekend, obviously there's a giant difference in trying to salvage some points on fresh trails at the National Enduro versus racing for 3 hours on a track that hundreds of bikers have already been on. But going a step further than that, when you're looking at that and balancing out, we've been talking about, and by we I mean you, but Snowshoe being the return, trying to get back at Snowshoe. There is 3 GNCCs and 9 entire weeks between now and Snowshoe. So that is a big jump to go from thinking about salvaging points this weekend and then racing a GNCC and 3 more of them the following week. So is Snowshoe still the goal? I know that you literally just mentioned that if you feel good, you might try to line up. But this whole thing, you're still in the points race. The championship dreams are still alive for number 6, right? Or 7? 7. 6. For National Enduro. GNCC, you can win every race by 4 miles, and it's this year the championship hopes are not there. Is that a factor that's playing into coming back to the GNCCs, or are you just still trying to get back as soon as you can to chase win bonuses and just get yourself back out there?
As a racer, we're 80% bonuses. So absolutely, I want to get back out there and try to go for bonuses. But if I can't finish 3 hours strong, there's no sense in me going out and trying to go as fast as I can for as long as I can and possibly entering something else. So that's kind of where I stand on the GNCC. I want to go out. I want to compete. But there isn't a championship on one. At the National Enduros, there is. And I think that there is still a chance that, if everything goes right, I could possibly even podium at National Enduros right off the bat. So, it's happened before. I think that, last time I did have a little bit more build time, 2 or 3 weeks before the National Enduro, before I came back and was able to pull a podium, where this time I won't have that. But I think that I think that there is still a shot in the dark that I can still even pull a podium out this weekend in 4th place. The realistic goal is top 7. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there, and that's why I want to focus there and not the GNCCs. And I think that from my standpoint, the GNCCs are great, but it's a good place to get hurt as well.
I can understand that. Now, this is probably going to be one of the most ignorant questions that I ask, but you keep mentioning top 7, need a top 7, need a top 7. What's the significance in a top 7?
My competition, nothing against Ryder Lafferty, great rider. I know they got second, but my competition in the National is
I have to think back to the last few years, and I've got to go to Josh Toth and Grant Baylor. So if I'm looking at those two, if I finish 7th place this weekend and Josh wins, I'll be within 10 points of him still. If I finish 7th place this weekend and Grant wins, I think I'll be tied with him. And if I podium the following, I'll be within 20 points. which just basically from there I need to finish consistently first and second. And historically speaking, in National Enduro, that's been my average position. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Mathematically.
Top 7 this weekend, a podium the next, and if I can finish top 2 the rest, I should be able to possibly win a championship. So that's where I'm looking at. That's the numbers that I'm running in my head.
Gotcha. So yeah, I was just sitting there wondering like if there was some weird thing about top 7 in points that I didn't know about. But so that's kind of based on your math and what you need to do to keep the championship hopes alive.
Correct.
Gotcha. So let's take a step back. Probably should have opened with this one, but let's take it back a couple notches. Who cleared you to ride a dirt bike? Is this a doctor thing, or is this feeling all right?
I'm feeling all right. Nah. I had my checkup with the neurosurgeon who's kind of led this whole thing today. He said you are good to go. If you were to have the same crash, you would re-break your spine. The chances of it being worse are possible. He said, there is that chance. You've broke your spine there, and there's the chance that it gives you issues later in life. There's the chance that if you crash again, it's worse than it was this time. But your spine is good. So it's good to go. I'm able to ride. I'm able to go back full activities. So everything's healed as far as that goes. I got my wrist checked a couple weeks ago. Everything's good there. And, hopefully just moving forward, I can stay on the podium.
So, you were back on the bike today, saw you riding, looked like you hadn't really missed any time off the videos that we saw, but how did it feel? I mean, was there any hesitancy with the neck issue? Did it bother you at all? Is it stiff? I mean, what was the overall sentiment as far as being back on the bike?
I felt like structurally my riding did not skip a beat. There was definitely some little things I noticed, like tight trees. I was a little sluggish. Just my fast muscle. Like when you don't work your upper body aggressively, rowing and stuff that we do through the week, and high intensity stuff on and off the bike, you get to the tight trees and you can just feel like your mind knows what it needs to do, but your body's not quite as sharp. So, I definitely felt a little sluggish there from time to time. And, everything else structurally, like sitting, standing, feet on the pegs, balance, mental clarity, everything else was good. But about 10 minutes into every 20, felt like I had to break through a wall. And that's something that, as a rider, like if we're setting out to do 30s on a day and you're aggressively pushing for 30 minutes, like usually the 22-minute mark is where you feel it, not the 9 and 10-minute mark. So
physically or mentally?
More like 9 and 10. But no, it was good. I felt very confident and comfortable on the motorcycle. I just, like I said, need more time to build back my base.
Yeah, and you mentioned building back the base. Obviously, in the Pro 1 class, in the XC1 class, everywhere you're racing, it's the premier class. There is no tune-up races. There is no getting your feet wet and easing back into it. It's like as soon as you line up, you're expected to be running that pace. Obviously, with some time off the bike and kind of like you mentioned, hitting that wall at 9-10 minutes in, what does it take from here? What does it take to get from where you are now and the time off the bike back to Stu Baylor of 2021, Stu Baylor of 4 months ago? What does it take to get from where you're at now back to that level?
6 months of double skipping steps, but not triple. it's one of those things where when I'm off the bike, it's as if a contractor's off of a dozer or a builder's not on a house project for a few months. Like, you're not going to forget it. A lot of people don't have the seat time that I have. So when they go through injury, and as kids especially, they come back to the bike and they're different riders completely. I've been through those phases, and now, it's my job. It's my 9 to 5. I've changed my style the way that I need it. When I sit on a motorcycle, I go right back to my natural form that I've created. Not necessarily natural, but the form that I've created. When you get back, it's like I said, double skip, not triple. You don't want to go through the steps too fast, but there are steps to take. And if you go too slow and hit every step, I'll be waiting 6 months, 10 months, 12 months to get back 100%. So as it starts back, I've been back in the gym. I've been working a little bit there. So I've got a little bit started. Now for the next couple weeks, it's on the bike training. The steps that I usually take, like returning from injury, depending on, I guess, what injury it is. If I'm cleared to pedal, train, lift weights, whatever, I can keep myself fairly active during. But the second I'm cleared to ride the motorcycle, it is motorcycle only for 2 weeks. I don't need to focus on lifting weights. I'm not training to be a Olympic weightlifter. I'm training to be a professional motorcycle racer. I don't need to ride my bicycle. I am not training to be a professional cyclist. I'm training to be a professional dirt bike racer. And I think these are some of the things that a lot of people get too caught up in. If you're spending 12 hours a week in the gym and on the bicycle and 2 hours a week on your dirt bike, I personally, and I know everybody's different, I don't see the benefit. You don't see Lance Armstrong in his prime riding a dirt bike to train for his bicycle. You see him riding a bicycle to train for his bicycle. You don't see a pro weightlifter riding a fucking bicycle. You see him lifting weights. So I think that we build our base in the motorcycle. We maintain everything with our weights. We can work with weights to basically make sure that injury prevention, which is the big thing that we work with, and our cardio. I've already been working with that. So now for the next 2 weeks, I focus on riding. I start introducing the gym and the cardio back into it lightly 2 weeks after that. And then about the 6 week mark, I would go back to my normal routine if everything goes well and I'm not too damn old to recover. And my balance is, when I'm really trying to build, it's 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, full off days, fully recovered. Don't do a damn thing. Like, let your body relax. On your hard days, take it hard. On your other days, you're maintained. So like, if I've got a 3 day on balance, I'm going to go day 1 medium, day 2 hard, day 3 pretty light as far as on the bike and in the gym. If I'm in the gym, day 4 is off, 5 is intense, 6 is maintaining. And I'm spending anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a week on the bicycle or on the dirt bike. And when I'm back in the gym, I'll spend the same, between the gym and the bicycle, or gym and the rower.
Dang. So talking about not triple stepping things and going too fast and kind of making sure there's a timeline. Is there any concern at all? Today's Tuesday, back on the bike for the first time today. Is there any concern that wait until Sunday to race is too long? Like, can we find some local moto races between now and then? Like, that's too long of a break, don't you think?
Personally, I do. I mean, the last National Enduro I lined up to, I rode for 12 minutes prior. So realistically, I would much rather go ahead and get to racing like tomorrow. I just feel more confident.
I mean, 20 minutes a day, you're almost twice as prepared as you were going into Sumter.
100%.
So I mean, I know you did the math. 7th place is your sweet spot. I feel like I've known you well enough now and talked enough to you to know that earlier when you said there's a chance at a podium, I know that you're probably going into the weekend thinking that there's a chance at a podium. And it's not fully out of the realm of possibility compared to how you're already riding and stuff back on the bike. But do you have any real solid expectations for yourself? And what I mean by that is if you get there, and I hope this doesn't happen, but maybe you bump into a tree in the first test and neck starts hurting a little bit more than you thought. Given everything that you've gone through and given the timeline that it's been to get back to this point, if something like that does happen and you can't continue, is there going to be any negative thoughts on yourself or your performance? Like, or is it kind of an experiment? Like, go in, let's see how we're feeling.
It's a lot of let's see how I'm feeling. I mean, if test 1, I'm sitting 16th place in class, and I'm like, oh, well, I can't go any faster, then I might as well just park my shit. If I'm test 1 goes through and I'm within striking distance of where I want to be, I think that we continue on until we aren't in striking distance or we finish the race. So, if it doesn't make sense, I won't do it. And to me, that's like, thinking that I'm going to line up in 2 weeks at the GNCC. Just doesn't make sense at this point. Now, that could change. If I finish this National Enduro and I win and I feel like it was a walk in the park, then, maybe we'll discuss it. But I very seriously doubt it. For me to go out and get a GNCC podium right now, I think it would be a little far-fetched. I can have all the strategy and all the speed in the world, but if I don't have the fitness, then there's nothing I can do in that third hour.
Understood. Yeah, I mean the physical demand that those races take, I think, is, like you said earlier, a lot different than what we're looking at for this weekend. Although obviously still a grueling race, but Dragon's Back is a really fun race. Like it is a really cool track. Is there a way for you to see how many pros are registered for this weekend? Like, are you able to see pre-entries or know how many Pro 1 riders are going to be there in general?
I think there is a way. I have no clue.
All right, so Logan, if you're listening, we need some insider information. So, and I know we kind of joked about it, but this is a race. I want to make my return to racing too. I've taken way too long. You are coming back 10 weeks later. I've been out quite some time, and I know I kind of joked about it, but hey, if there's 6 people signed up for that Pro 1 class, I might make 7. And then still make sure you get your top 7. Because if you sign up in any other class, I think it's row 156 that I'd have to race right now. Pro 1 starts on row 33 and got to fill it in 1 a row. So I might get some some good track time in the Pro 1 class, if you know what I mean.
Come on, bring it on. We'll be waiting.
If you don't make it through all 6, though, I got to find a way to get disqualified so that way you still beat me. Or it might be the only National Enduro I'll ever beat you at. We don't know.
Sounds good.
I'll
pay you a bonus for it.
Perfect. I'm in. And so another thing, and kind of off the record, and I appreciate your time and you chatting with us today. One thing that you talked about, or just really going around, I think everyone is talking about it, but we're right in the middle of contract time. And I know it's a big secret. No one wants to talk about it. But we started this thing, the weekend reviews with Stu, and having you on each week, kind of giving an inside look at everything going on. So I figured I'd throw it out there. Contract season. What is it like for a pro rider? Like, what is this time of the year like? Who's talking to who? And have you heard anything going on in the world? This is a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I had offers on the table in January. And, it's one of those things where you don't necessarily know which way you want to go. And as a pro rider, it's really tough to navigate because you've got let's say that you're riding for a team now and talking to another team, and a third one comes on the scene. Now you're talking to 3 different people, and they're all interested, and they're all trying to show you what they can do and how they can better your program financially, motorcycles, mechanics, whatever it may be. They're throwing everything they've got, and as a rider, you're going to piss 2 people off. Whether it's the team that you're riding for, whether it's the team that you've been talking to, or the team that's really after you. And not only that, when these teams start negotiating with you or start discussing, even prior to negotiating, sometimes just discussions, they also start pimping your name out. So, let's say that I'm, Beta or whoever, and I'm going to
Good bikes.
Moose Racing and Dunlop Tire, or whoever it may be. I'm going to say, hey, here is these guys, and if I get this guy, what would you pay me?
From the team perspective,
you're saying, Stu Baylor, I'm going to pay you $50,000 extra. Well, now that team can say, okay, I've got that much more to negotiate with. So all these guys are going to start kind of pimping the name out a little bit, and if you turn one down, you're not just turning that company down, you're also turning down, Moose or Dunlop or whoever that's associated with them, and you can piss a lot of people off, and it's tough. Like it is business, but it's also tough. And I've kind of discussed it before. A lot of the problems that I see with racing is it's a lot of people that handle things with emotion and rather than business. And when things go south or somebody doesn't ride for somebody, it always turns into emotion rather than business. And in the business world, we wouldn't have to deal with that. But in our little corner of the world, we do. So everybody gets pissed off. And, then you've got, on top of that, every team tells you not to ever negotiate any of the terms of your contract or you'll be terminated, which is bullshit. I mean, honestly, I would love to start a union for the riders because we get absolutely shafted. I've said it time and time again, probably not on, hell, maybe I haven't said it on the podcast, but we are literally lining up to break our necks for these guys. And when I say literally, I mean fucking literally. But we get paid peanuts. So when we leave and these guys say don't negotiate the terms of your contract, most of the riders treat that pretty seriously. Me personally, I was making pretty good money a couple of years ago. I sent out my tax return on my group text just so that some guys could see it. The way I see it, I'm sorry, but if we're going to sit here and be quiet, we'll never drive up the price. If one guy takes a $30,000 offer, he screws the rest of it. So, at the end of the day, $30,000. If you're a fellow racer, $30,000 doesn't fill up the tank all year, much less take a professional racer. But there are pros lining up for $30,000. So,
So how
in my position, I'm trying to get the most as I can out of these guys. So, there's that flip side of it too, and it's really tough. Like you want to stay loyal, and then you want to also talk around and try to get the best for yourself and your family without pissing anybody off. And like I said, no matter what, you're gonna piss somebody off.
And that's one giant thing so Josh Koscheck, he likes to compare the state of off-road racing now to what MMA was and the UFC was at the beginning of times. And the more and more that I learn about the industry, the more and more that makes sense, because right now it's riders doing the deals with these companies, doing the deals with these team managers, and it's riders that are getting in the way and turning people down. And like you said, you turn down one deal and that is 5 deals on top of it because of all the companies that they work with. And same thing, everyone's shooting themselves in the foot. If someone at the same caliber as another, rider A is at the same caliber as rider B. Rider B takes a contract that's 20 grand less than what rider A was going for, and now rider A's price is lowered. So, 2-part question. One, do you think that salary is important in this realm to be public and to be more visible and to be more well known. An NFL trade happens, you find out the details of their contract and how much money they're making before you even find out that they're traded. Like Aaron Rodgers just redid a deal, and the first thing about it was how much money he's making. Every major sport that makes a deal, the first thing that's said is how much money they're making, and that kind of drives the market. Well, okay, now I saw that guy got that much money. I beat him this many times this year. My social media following is this much higher than his. My engagement is better than his. I have more to offer than him. Now I know that I need to make more money than that. So do you think that money and the transparency of these contracts and how much money people is making, do you think that is important for people to find out? Like, in your opinion, should that be public knowledge, or should we keep everything behind closed doors like it's been?
I personally think it needs to get out because I think it needs to drive up. I mean, when I've discussed my numbers with other pros, they look at me sideways. And years past, like, I was not what I am today as far as my results. I was always good in national enduros, but not the GNCCs. My social media wasn't as strong. My likability as a fan favorite wasn't as solid. But I was making more money than anybody but Caleb Russell. Like, that's the only guy that was making more money than I was.
Why is that?
And it didn't matter if I was fifth place. And I think I was very good at marketing myself, playing people against each other, double dipping and running my number up. And I was smart with what I was doing and who I was working with, and found a way to make good money. And in a place where there was none. There's plenty of money, don't get me wrong. They're just a place where nobody will spend anything. I mean, like, dude, I would be willing to bet that these corporations, these, like, let's say Honda Corp or whoever, like, let's say it's Honda paying whatever the Honda team is at GNCC. I
Phoenix.
can't remember the
Phoenix
team.
Racing.
I bet that they pay that team like $100,000 a year. Like, for the off-road. Like, it's sad what these companies who are selling like 20, 30,000 off-road motorcycles a year are paying these companies or these teams. And the margins are there on the motorcycles. These guys are making millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. And what do they stamp on the face of their deals? The pro riders that are on the bikes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to pay what we should be paying. I think in Supercross, the numbers are a lot more talked about, in the pits. I think it's a little more tight-knit crowd, and guys know what each other is making. I know that there's still the threats of, don't tell anybody what you're making. But realistically, the only guys that aren't talking about it are the guys that aren't making shit anyway. So, I think that's definitely something that I would like to see start happening a little bit more. The riders would work together a little bit and discuss their deals, then maybe they could make more money. There was years where I was not winning anything and making six figures to race, and it was just because I was smart with what I was doing and who I was discussing with, and also, good relationships with the companies. Like, I would do little extra things I could.
And so the second part of that question that I was kind of going off at, and same thing you keep talking about it here, is I was talking to them, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was building relationships. One thing that I also, and the phone call that you and I had that sparked these podcasts for the seasons, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but the lack of rider representation in this sport. That is something that I think is a glaring thing as well, because like you said right now, it's riders that are making these deals happen. It's riders that a lot of times haven't been, I don't know any riders that have a business degree, But I mean, you kind of learn it as you go, especially like you starting at a young age and negotiating these deals, and you learn it over time. But there's riders that are getting their first deals that don't know anything about negotiating these deals, and they're the ones that are responsible for getting their money. And not only that, they're the ones responsible for going face to face with somebody and saying, "I'm sorry, I took a different offer." So then, as you mentioned, everyone takes everything out of emotion. So now, oh, that rider turned me down for them. I'm never talking to that rider ever again. I think rider representation is something that this sport is missing as well. So then that way, it's not you talking to these people. It's not you letting them down. It's not you asking for more money and seeming greedy. It's someone on behalf of you saying, my client needs this and my client needs this. Because I think once that happens and there is rider representation and there's people representing multiple riders, I think that'll kind of help the transparency of the contracts get around too, because now you know how much people are signing for because you're representing more people. And then you can go exactly back to what I was saying. Well, this guy outperformed this guy for the past 2 years. You're paying him this much. My client needs this much. Do you think something like that could benefit the sport?
I mean, I definitely do. Like as we speak, I am negotiating, trying to work with agents for next year, and there's a number of reasons why, but I can go back to years past negotiating with KTM where they told me I would have a mechanic and all this stuff, and then shit just fell apart. I mean, they absolutely left me with nothing. I mean, I had to get a loan out to go and buy my bikes because they told me they were going to do something. But when the writing came through in January, after I had waited and passed up every other deal, I had nothing. And, I mean, that was bullshit. Like, it happened to me. I was a factory rider with KTM. They told me they were going to keep me and they were going to give me the same deal that my brother was on. I knew my brother's deal. I mean, he was my brother. So we planned on that. Everything's good. All of a sudden, nothing. I heard through the rumor mill is because Grant signed with Yamaha. I don't give a fuck where Grant signed. Like, at the end of the day, that's the problem. We need to have somebody who is negotiating about this stuff on record, in writing, whatever it may be. And obviously, I've had much bigger shakeups with contracts since then. But through the years, it's been one thing after another, from suspension to motors to mechanics to whatever it may be. When I go to bat for myself, I can only say so much, because if I say more, then I'm an asshole. If I call you and I say, hey, and you're the owner of a company, and I say, hey, I'm Stu Baylor. I've got 2 world championships. I'm the only American who has one on the junior and the world trophy team. I've got 5 national enduro championships. I've won XC2. I'm the most liked in GNCC. What do I sound like? I sound like a cocky asshole. So your impression of me is, this guy's cocky asshole. Now, if I have somebody who represents me who says, hey, my client is this, 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 and this, and you start listing these things off, now it is, okay, I'm interested. Who is this guy? I'd like to know more about him. And then if the terms start getting negotiated, and I'm negotiating, and I say, hey, I want this. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm going to be a stickler on this. I want this. Now I'm the asshole. If my agent says this is something that we're going to require, or we're walking, either it happens or it doesn't. And guess what? If we walk, oh man, we couldn't make the deal. If it's personal, if it's me dealing with that, then it is absolutely held personal, and I'll never hear from that company again. So, no, I mean, you and I have definitely had this exact discussion on the phone for like 3 hours before we can get way in depth on this. But, I mean, even going back to my Sherco contract, the same things. I mean, had I had better representation and somebody smarter than myself involved, I think that things would have been a little bit differently. I mean, I've even had pages left out of my contract. I sign a contract face to face, and then get my copy, and one of the pages is completely gone, discusses money, and there's a lot of situations like that come through, and if you had an agent or some type of representative, I think that there's definitely room for it. I know a lot of the contracts say that they refuse to work with an agent. And that's probably exactly why, because they know that if there's an agent involved, that they can't screw you.
So that's part of contracts, is saying that they won't work with anyone other than the rider?
Yes.
I mean, that's exactly why.
Contracts with that stuff written in. I'm telling you, there's no union to be formed. Like there's a lot of bullshit. Like there's so much that if when you look behind the curtains in this industry, you realize just how fucked up the people at the top are.
And so when you were talking about this earlier, and it came up in my mind, but I forgot about it until right now. You're talking about the funding and how much industry people and everyone is paying out right now. These past 2 years through COVID, every single person that I know and that I have talked to in the industry will openly say that these have been record-breaking years. They have sold more product than they have ever sold before. They are selling product faster than they can get product. And then those same companies are turning around and cutting funding from series, from teams, from other things that they were involved in, saying that because of COVID, we're going to have to cut back our spending. And that is exactly the issue. They are bringing in more money than they have ever made, and they are cutting what they are spending. It makes zero sense to me.
Dude, I wish I had some type of answer. It's crazy. I mean, the worst part of the recession was 07 and 08. I remember getting an email in 2010 saying that pay was being cut 30%, taking budget cuts because motorcycle sales were down. Motorcycle sales in 2010 were already starting to crawl back up. Like it was, it's any place that they can find to save a couple bucks, they're going to. And I understand it, I guess. If you save a few bucks and screw over somebody, then screw that person. Got more money in my pocket. The problem is, most of these companies still feel like they are doing so much for you. Like, at the end of the day...
Oh, you're just riding a dirt bike.
Most of the companies that I work with, I have a personal relationship with almost every one of them. And they are great people, and most of them are good. But there's a lot of companies that I've worked with in the past that make you feel like, oh, we're doing all this for you. You should be so appreciative of us. And then there's companies that I'm working with now that are like appreciative for me. If I make posts and I tag them, or if I repost one of their posts, like they're stoked about it. Little things like that go a long way. And it's funny. Like a lot of these companies that come and go, most of them, they make their money and they roll out, and they are like that, and a lot of the people, almost everybody's saying the same thing about COVID right now, and I get it. Like at the end of the day, all we are is marketing and advertising, and if stuff's selling before they get it, what the hell do they need me for? So I understand that side of it, but if you're gonna sit here and cry that shit to me today, then 3 years from now, when Joe Biden's bubble pops, I'm probably not going to work with a company anymore. I'm going to find a company that was willing to do whatever they could. When the sun was shining on them, they were making sure that all the grass is green. I mean, that's the big thing. Like a lot of these companies, it's funny. I mean, times like this, it brings it out of everybody.
Yeah, this whole conversation's got me fired up. I didn't mean for it to go to this point, but I mean, you look at. Let's go a couple years back when Strang got back on a Kawasaki. I started seeing more and more Kawasaki's in the woods than I had ever seen. When you switch over to going back to Sherco, people that didn't even know what a Sherco was went out and bought a Sherco. Now you're on Yamahas. People are buying Yamahas. Like you say that you guys are only marketing and only advertising. That is their main source of marketing and advertising, because you think that people aren't going to pump your 5 enduro national championships. You think people aren't going to pump your 2 world championships. Like, that is exactly what they do to sell bikes. That is exactly what they do to sell boots, gear, helmets, neck braces, goggles, everything. And then, like I said, it blows my mind that income and spending and purchasing and rider participation is at an all-time high, yet contracts are still trying to go lower and lower.
It's, it's funny. You talk to guys like Jason Raines, Brett Andrews, that were racing in the 90s, making more money than we're making today.
Really?
Yes, 100%. I mean, as a whole, I would say those guys back then were making way more. I mean, were there bonuses to what we've got now versus then? Absolutely. 2 shots are stuck. But yeah, I mean, it's gone downhill as far as rider pay. GNCC pay stayed the same. National Enduro pay has gone up $400. And the turnouts are across the board larger than ever, and we're still at the same pay. So yeah, I mean, to go back to the original thing, riders need to discuss their numbers a little better, be a little smarter. Don't think that you need to be so damn quiet. It's beat into our heads, but open your mouth. It treated me okay. And also representation would be great if the industry wouldn't frown upon it.
That's crazy that there's contracts that say you can't have representation. But so now when you get this new deal all worked out that you got in the works, if you do have one in the works, you gonna let us know how much you're making?
I'll discuss it. It'll get out. Maybe not on a podcast, but I'll discuss it. Just because people need to know.
Yeah,
honestly.
Man. Transparency. No, and all jokes aside, I was just saying that because, like, the whole time we're obviously sitting here talking about it, it's like, do I ask? Do I not ask? But that is something that needs to be maybe not transparent to the public yet, like other sports do, but I think that 100% needs to be transparent to riders because, like you mentioned, there's people that are getting the shaft and then someone else that is at a lesser tier than that person that's making more money. And it's because no one has any idea how much anyone's making. Well, to an extent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I normally make sure that my numbers get out. I talk to people.
And
you
send
just
group
tell,
text.
There's 2 or 3 people in my circle that I can tell and tell them not to tell everybody or anybody, and everybody will know. So I just go ahead and tell those 2 or 3 right off the bat, and then everybody knows.
That's how you weed them out, man. Tell all 3 of them. Do like Jay-Z did with their baby name. So just tell 3 of them different numbers, and then whatever number you hear from everyone else, you know who went around running their mouth. Oh, is that amount? That must mean it was you, Jimmy. Anyway, like I said, I didn't plan to go down this road, but it's just that, and I've talked about it before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. My whole reason for starting the show, like, I see people doing what I'm doing, starting up, and they're doing it for Supercross and Motocross. Their numbers grow exponentially out of the gate because the Tomacs, the Andersons, the Roxons, those are bigger names. There's more attention on them. The reason that I don't talk about Supercross, I don't talk about Motocross, is because you can hear about that everywhere. There's enough attention, enough eyes, enough media on that side of the sport. There was no one doing this in off-road. My entire goal, and I've been pretty open about this from the beginning, is to find a way to change this industry, to bring more eyeballs into the sport, to bring more fans into the sport, to get your stories out, riders' stories out, and ultimately bring more money to the sport, because that is the point that we're at. And as you mentioned, until there's a union, until everyone's working together, It's kind of like one of those rising tides raises all ships situations. Until everyone works together, there finds a way to get this transparency and finds a way to build everything up and build everyone up, then it's never going to go up and it's never going to stay the same. And so there are these glaring issues, but it's like, what do we do to fix it? What do we do to get these contract numbers up? What do we do to get these race payouts up? And I think it starts with building the attention, building the engagement, building the fan base. And as you mentioned, right now, rider participation is at an all-time high. This was the last 2 years, the only time in AMA history that the off-road riders have superseded the motocross riders. So there's more money coming into off-road. There's more racers coming into off-road, but the supercross contracts are going up, the motocross contracts are going up, and off-road is stuck in the early 90s.
So are you going to be my agent, or what are you going to
man, you know my reputation well enough to know you might not want me. There's a reason why my sponsors for the podcast are outside of the industry.
Heard that. Oh, shit.
But no, I mean, with that being said, I don't know where else to go from there. Anything else that you wanted to clear up as far as I know we got way off topic there, but just anything else, like from your perspective, looking into the weekend, looking into the rest of the season, is there anything that you feel like you left out or that you wanted to get out?
No, not really. I mean, the plan right now is just to try to get back, chase the Enduros, and get back to GNCCs as soon as I feel fit for it.
Sweet.
Just got to make sure that we take all the right steps, and hopefully it'll happen soon.
Good deal. Well, man, as always, I'll be rooting for you. Wish you the best of luck. You got a whole bunch of people out there that'll be rooting for you too. Pumped to see you back on a bike. Super happy for you. I know from your perspective, sitting around on the couch and watching racing and watching riders, like I know you got to be going stir crazy. So from your mental standpoint, I'm sure there's nothing like being back on the bike.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm stoked back on it.
Well, sweet. Thanks again for your time, and we'll see you this weekend. And depending on how the weekend goes, maybe we'll chat Monday to hear about it.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Stu.
All right. See ya.